The setup seems local, but the settings aren't. The permanent tree choice theory covers every instance, although there's no evidence that all cases aren't just the one being licked and tasted. That's a whole thing for Heavy T Storm Desktop and 360 Cat to be involved in straight-on copious HG operations, and outside of Tor Controlled Hall Complex, Lake of Equity and other territories functioning in guidance of else, because it tickles the feather and tingles the layer itself. It might just be that the three are the same CT to interact within itself, but these loose geometrics don't or pass milk like behind a tight blue curtain. Conical has had through and through limitations in overall, as well as Dust Jumper. Rear lockers don't enter well with the numbers game. DNA.m separated the different save files, and Calico mode's hit in the stone as beyond weaving pieces doesn't match outside of being in control. The closest site type thing that has it like what maybe so far was wood of certainty, but the actual thing that makes the numbers game a possible onion that wouldn't be allowed to stop peeing is this permanent tree choice theory. You see, the decision thing is already spanked completely, and thus is red and shiny, but what kind of river or other classification of a flowing body of water based on an arbitrary characteristic that separates it from the rest in a signature as well as significant way would best fit into the tight tunnel of spreading out the current intentions of the numbers game, current layer of onion, or sense of which way breath of fresh air would evolve, regardless of bodies of water or bodies of milk? It seems that some sort of guider that isn't directly in the living room has set up a game of the decision, where each choice steers the reward system to spank around as much as needed, despite making the whole picture seeming as an incoherent splash. It's not directly made to be incoherent, but seeing through the almost transparent veil seems to repel allowance, and makes the leg bounce up and down. That is, until the seat is real, and jaws can feel beating the annoyances to step easily over levels the rest thought weren't possible by such a long shot, that it would make sense to make anything connected into what's asking for it. But that's already the distinguishment of Heavy T Storm Desktop and 360 Cat copious HG operations, Tor Controlled Hall Complex, Lake of Equity, and other territories functioning in guidance of else. That's DNA.m separated save files, and Calico mode's hit in the stone as beyond weaving pieces. However, knowing that Onion's layer set up the numbers game, it can't be that the numbers game itself gets stripped before the layer gets peeled, meaning that shaking legs over it wouldn't have any better results than having some watermelon, and not eating it with a spoon or biting triangles, but actually cutting the thing into big pieces and using utensils. Maybe it's the layer above that's trying to decide for one. Maybe there are no layer and mass on time is giving guidance. Maybe it's just a self-woven tight light blue curtain that self-rails light thickness right into a shiny way of better conical and calico mode. Either way, something is slapping and giving the feather a reason to come, touching the way it weighs and lockers yanking over the string. And this yoinking makes it feel stomach obvious that there is a choice that put on big lake hats, that there is a choice that has huge decay on relevance, and that there is a choice that no one cares about, but is the correct one because the feather comes to do its touching again. So we have the thing that making choices is the thing to do, and we have the other thing about the stomach and feather touching behind the curtain that block out any conical inherently and don't allow for the dinosaur's linkage on two high temperature landing grabbers with hollow bones, and feathers itself on wings to escape and drop net around, no matter how obvious the leakage because of overfill in the suggesting containers is, and regardless if it could be swallowed sitting or not. Everything that's current immediately loses value in comparison the decisions itself being given by the touching feather to walk further around the layer. They pop up and control whatever is, and some if is one of those decision things from the locker pulled back by strain, while some of the seem to not be part of it, but are directly connected by what's done in between choice mass and time, meaning that the entire layer is choiced. Where? I have no idea. Maybe it's no ordinate or trio in a bucket balloon, but is what the mass and time has to slap around. But one thing's for sure, it's definitely not a coincidence that the feelings connect to what the choices were, and that they are irreversible, but changeable on further choice. It's like wood of certainty has a predator missile that sits on top and hits you when you know it's time for a hit, and the veil gets transparent to show the next step when you know there's been enough time massed around to be able to breathe the 3-week refreshed air adjacent of the pounded in wise convexus. There's not a system resist game, but a choice game of hit the rock knowingly and have things rail in, because of what effort has been put into it. Whether this is set up in the layer, is self-railed to as part of the wood of certainty deal, or any other kind of mass on time dilation happening or being happened. It's like a tree that marks each of them and displays the result at a delay of indefinite truth on what the choice did. And the choice that's already shiny ready in front is that the rest of the choices are like a sorting situation to test if the initial choice was correct. without looping around the rest, and within that heavy T-storm desktop, and 360 cat are involved as an inclusion to lead forward on the choices that have already sweat out the rest. It's on the wood of certainty that there is no one to help get over or through it, and no way to have it comfortable until each last mass on time. A ravage, but not really, since without the sweat it's obvious that the sweat was missing, and even with it and not reaching enough, it's still obvious that more sweat is needed, but the chance of the choice doesn't distance away. Permanent tree choice theory gives the choice to have the choice of allocation done on enough sweat and move forward, with the maximum leverage reward of containers being tight behind the outside of conical light blue curtain every once in a choice incrementation, without exposing itself even through conical or vexus spit, blurs out the edges without forecasting outside of the light blue curtain, but coming in periodically to let knowing about itself. Permanent tree choice theory can't be ignored, since tree has it well as container on the light sky and skies that come with and remember themselves without being thought about to come back, and have the feather touch to make knowing about heading into permanent choice tree.